Welcome to the TalkativeChic Podcast. Today's guest is MIke Oquendo, also known as MikeyO for us here in Chicago. He is the biggest Latino producer, promoter of comedy and music and theater in Chicago. He does it all. He has been also going to other cities. I've seen shows in Connecticut. I've seen shows in Puerto Rico. I've seen shows in Florida. He also landed the Kennedy Center not too long ago with Eli Castro. You can catch him on Leguizamo Does America on Peacock. He's on season 1 of that, promoting Chicago. And we talked about producing. We talked about him growing up in his years, his home life, and how he got into comedy and how he became a producer. Really good, interesting stories. Even if you're not a comedian or a producer, you should listen to this episode because it's really a great testament to what a dream can be and how to build it and how to make it happen. It was an honor to have him on the TalkativeChic podcast. I was so excited when he said he would come. He also bought a black little dog when he came out here in Indiana and named Zeke, I believe. And he is living the high life now out with MikeyO. And he's a man I admire, and I definitely have learned a lot from. And I hope you enjoy the episode. Have a great one. Bye. On the TalkativeChic Podcast.
Yeah, I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it so much.
I'm excited to be here, but I've never done a podcast where they asked me to bring a urine sample.
We take our podcast seriously.
Yeah, I'm like, wait, is this a podcast or a podcast where they want you to take a urine sample to make sure you're not high? Anyway,
no, we want to make sure if you're high. If you're
high, make sure I am high. Yeah, you know what? I'll let you write the joke.
Even though we're in Indiana, but we're not telling anybody. Oh my soul! So how you been?
I've been good.
All right?
I'm good. I've been good. I'm happy. I'm happy that summer's here, kind of, and school is out, and there's a lot of great things happening in both the state of Indiana, the state of Illinois. I'm a big Summerfest guy, so I'm happy.
Yeah, and it is a hot day in Northwest Indiana, Chicago, Illinois today. But yeah, it's interesting how I kind of met you. I feel like it was a little serendipitous.
Mm-hmm.
I went out to Chicago downtown. I came back home after eating, and it was kind of like the world was still opening and not opening up, right?
Yeah.
Where it was during the pandemic. And I follow a lot of people on Instagram, which I was always following you, and I had just started comedy, and you were one of the people that I wanted to be on your stage eventually. For those listening, MIke Oquendo is a big, huge promoter and producer of comedy and then some.
Yeah.
A lot of other stuff, music, theater now, which I want to talk about. But so I follow you on Instagram, and I'm like, oh, he's on today. He's on right now, and I'm like, oh, I want to hear what he has to say. And I click, and the next thing I know, you're bringing me into talk, which I was not expecting.
Yeah,
and I was like,
I remember
oh my God, I'm like, we're gonna talk. So I go to the kitchen because it's lighted, and then I talked about my comedy, and then you were just so gracious, and you're like, you know what, I'm gonna go to your comedy show, and if you want to be on MikeyO show, and I was just like, wow, yes, please, this is exciting, and you came to my show and that I produce in Hope Art Theater. Right. I think it was April of 2021. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then the summer, I did a couple of MikeyO shows, which was so much fun and so great to be around other comedians and things. But how was your upbringing? I mean, did you grow up in Puerto Rico?
No, I did not grow up in Puerto Rico. I grew up in Wrigley Field.
Okay.
When Wrigley Field was a very, very mixed community of people, of regular, everyday people. I grew up in, I like to say I grew up in Wrigley Field when rent was $200 a month.
Wow.
I grew up on the corner of Halsted and Roscoe.
Okay.
I went to grammar school in that neighborhood. I went to high school in that neighborhood, and so that's where I grew up. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Lakeview, East Lakeview. They got all kinds of names for it. Boys Town.
Yeah.
Technically speaking, by today's terms, I grew up in the heart of Boys Town, which is Roscoe and Halsted.
Okay.
The building that I live in holds a business called the 98th Floor, which is a world-renowned a place for whips and chains and leather and all kinds of erotica stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Bizarre.
Yeah. Very bizarre. Very bizarre. Very bizarre.
Wow. Yeah. The building that you used to live in.
The building that I used to live in as a kid.
Okay, so your parents were like, skip the 98th floor.
Yeah, so exactly. Yeah, but no. So that was, believe it or not, that was a bodega.
Oh, wow.
And for a while it belonged to my dad, and then it belonged to the next person and the next person and the next person. But that neighborhood back in the day, I was in a play called La Havana Madrid. Havana Madrid was the name of the play, and that play that I was in was about that neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
So the reason I had to get a part, and the reason I had to audition, the reason I begged for a part, the reason was because I was there, and I played my father's friend, coincidentally.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. My father's friend, check this out. You'll love this. Sorry about that. My
know
father's
you were
friend,
acting. Okay.
I didn't know I was an actor. My father's friend was a guy named Tony Quintana. Not Montana, Quintana. Okay. Tony Quintana, check this out. You ready?
Yeah.
Had a radio station, had a TV show, had a magazine, had a newspaper, had a record shop.
Wow.
Was a local host, promoter, and DJ.
Oh, my goodness.
And he, back then, did all the things that I dream of doing now. Isn't that crazy?
Wow.
In the 1960s, he was doing all these amazing things. Let me just tell you how profound this guy was.
Okay.
There's nobody doing that now. There's nobody in Chicago, Puerto Rican, in the community that's got a TV station, a radio station, a newspaper, a magazine, a record shop. This guy was insane. His name was Tony Quintana, and he ran and was the host of the club called La Havana Madrid.
Okay.
And I played Tony Quintana. It played at the Steppenwolf, the Goodman, the Shakespeare, the Miracle Center. Yeah, it ran. People who are at home or listening, Google Havana Madrid, Chicago, or Havana Madrid MikeyO. You'll see my pictures there.
Oh, my goodness. So how old were you when this happened?
This was 5 years ago.
Oh, wow.
This was right before the pandemic.
Oh, my goodness.
In fact, the pandemic probably stopped all of the future, potential of the play because it just shut all theaters down. But it was an amazing play, written by the wonderful Sandra Delgado, and it had a full orchestra.
Interesting.
It had, and so it took place in Lakeview during that time in different spots. But the main place that everybody ended up every night was La Havana Madrid. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tony Quintana, and I am the new owner of La Havana Madrid. It is a pleasure to have you here tonight.
Wow.
That's how I opened every show.
Oh, my God.
Every night, which is interesting because it's the MikeyO show.
So you were him in the play?
Yeah, I played.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. So it was easy to audition for.
Yeah.
And I had wonderful.
Life.
Yeah, I was up there with seasoned Chicago actors, and I had just wonderful support.
Yeah, it's hard to get into the theater business. But yeah, knowing that you are that person, you basically played yourself.
It was easier, but I had to do a lot of hard work because acting wasn't necessarily, and it was tough, but it was one of the best experiences ever. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, acting is interesting too, but it's awesome to have that relationship with the character because every time you act, you want to find things that are similar about you and the character.
Yeah.
And it's like that was made for you.
Yeah. I mean,
very interesting.
I researched the guy. He's alive still.
Okay.
He is blind. He is in good health. He is still an amazing personality. His voice, you're never going to forget his voice, and he talks kind of like this right now. Tony Quintana, like that, and just a really, really, and great stories about the guy. He's on an airplane flying to Puerto Rico. Harold Washington, the mayor, stops him and says, "Where are you going?" And he says, "My seat's in the back." And Harold Washington, the mayor's in first class, and says, "No, your seat's right here." Tells his bodyguard, "You sit in the back." That kind of a guy. People wanted to. People wanted to find out what was happening with him all the time.
That is so interesting. Yeah. That is awesome.
Yeah.
Right after this, I'm Googling all of that.
Yeah.
Very super cool. And I didn't know it happened 5 years ago. I thought you were going to say,
no,
I was 25 or whatever when this happened or whatever, like part of your upbringing story and stuff. Interesting.
Yeah.
Wow.
It really was. It really was a phenomenal experience. I'll never forget it. The nightly audiences loved it. There was live dancing in the show. It was just.
Oh yeah, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was beautiful
because of all the production and all the things that he did. I don't know how he found the time to do everything.
Yeah.
I guess it wasn't wrapped up in social media.
Yeah, he wasn't wrapped up in social media. And he had a supportive family. His daughters are still in touch with me. He had a wonderful supportive family, and it's easy sometimes.
Yeah,
makes it easier sometimes.
Were your parents supportive of what you wanted to do? Like, was it always comedy for
you?
Man. Or what did you do when you were growing up? Or what did you dream about?
Yeah. Yesterday, I had a chance to speak to some kids at a grammar school, and I always tell them the story about how I really, 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 really got into the arts. I was not a well-behaved kid.
Okay.
I was in trouble. 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th grade. So 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, when the teacher cannot deal with you anymore, doesn't know what to do with you, they send you where? To the auditorium.
Okay.
What's happening in the auditorium? Kids are rehearsing their plays. They're rehearsing their music. They're rehearsing other stuff. And I would always get in trouble. I would always end up in the auditorium, right? I was the guy that was, making copies, the kid that was making copies. It was their way of, that'll calm him down. He's bouncing off the walls. Give him something to do.
Huh.
And then all of a sudden, one day they said, we need a bass drum player for the color guard. I'll never forget this. The big bass drum that you carry on your belly. Yeah. Color guard, attention!
Yeah.
And boom, 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 as they marched down the aisles with the flags.
Yeah.
And that was my introduction into, just being in the arts. And then I was always the class clown. I was always the troublemaker, right? I was always the kid that had something to say, too much to say. Mm-hmm. Teachers couldn't understand it. They would tell my mom, we can't quite figure this out. All A's, completely crazy. We don't know how to figure it out. We can't fail him because he gets the work done.
That's interesting.
But he's a 0, in terms of behavior.
Wow.
And years later, a therapist told me that was the confidence that who cares about getting in trouble because I'll make it up on the homework side, on the school side.
Okay.
And I don't know that he's right because I don't know that I was that clever.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Like clever in getting A's or clever in thinking that for yourself?
Thinking that through. This guy was basically saying, well, the reason that you were behaving this way, Mr. Oquendo, is because you knew that you academically were going to do very well. And so you kind of said, well, I'm going to blow school off because I'll never get in trouble.
Huh. Yeah.
I don't know that I was that smart. But that's it. I mean, and then I messed around with DJing, and then I messed around with this, that, the other. And about 13, 14 years old, my sister Lydia brought home an album.
Okay. The
album was Freddie Prinze live at Mr. Kelly's in Chicago.
Okay.
And that album, we put it on.
Yeah.
And here was Freddie Prinze. I still have the album, telling stories about the Puerto Rican experience.
Oh, wow.
Now, for those of you who are listening, I'm talking about Freddie Prinze Sr., not Jr. I'm talking about Freddie Prinze from Chico and the Man. I'm talking about Freddie Prinze, the first Puerto Rican to perform in the White House, period. I'm talking about Freddie Prinze, the first stand-up on the Johnny Carson show to take the seat.
Okay.
You know, when comedians, that's correct. He called them over to the seat, and those ratings went up because Johnny had an opportunity to have a one-on-one. The ratings went up, and that became a standard for comedy to this day. Wow. Freddie Prinze died at a very young age. He had drug problems, all kinds of problems, and he committed suicide. I'll never forget when he died. I'll never forget where I was because it was really it was almost like Elvis died for me. You know what I mean? Yeah. He was my Elvis. But you know, Freddie Prinze, talking about, I pop in the album and here's Freddie Prinze talking to the Roaches. Hey, Freddie, don't you come back with an Okakaro spray? We lock you out. Yeah. My mother was Puerto Rican. My father was Hungarian. They met on a train, pickpocketing each other. That kind of stuff. Yeah. And I memorized that whole album. Wow. That whole album, I memorized it. I mean, I legitimately could do that entire album. If I flew to New York to see a guy who did the story a few years ago, the Freddie Prinze story, live on stage in New York City. Oh, wow. And he nailed it. And he basically did the whole album. Oh, wow. He did the whole album, yeah. Huh. But that's how it started for me. And then, little odds and ends. And then, I got involved in theater here and stuff like that. But so you did a little acting. I kept that up. I mean, look, here's the deal. I was not represented well. Theater was not something that we could afford to see, let alone go try to be in a play, take an acting class. So I played with it. I loved it. I grew up. I'm a guy that grew up on Good Times. The Jeffersons, Sanford and Son, Chico and the Man, Hogan's Heroes. Gilligan's Island, I Dream of Jeannie, Bewitched. All of those. The Dick Van Dyke Show. For people, I always tell people, like, if you really, really, really want to know good, solid writing, just watch 6-7 episodes of Dick Van Dyke. Listen to that writing. You know what I mean? That's solid writing, Yeah. So I'm glad that I, grew up listening to that stuff because, I just, and then, of course, then came the good boys, right? George Carlin, Rodney Dangerfield, Richard Pryor, and the list goes on from there, so that kind of like is the molding of kind of like what I wanted to do. And then the second thing that happened was I went to see John Leguizamo at the Briar Street Theater, where the Blue Man Group lives now. Okay. And I went to see Spick-O-Rama. Oh, wow. And when I saw Spick-O-Rama, at that moment, I said to myself, I'm home. I need to do this. Okay. Like the Freddie Prinze album was playing in my head, and then the Spick-O-Rama was playing in my head, and I go, I know people like this. I know these stories, and I know people like this. Why aren't they on stage here? And then a few years later, I still couldn't penetrate that space of stand-up. I couldn't penetrate that space of theater. I ran into a guy. I'm walking down the street. So many people don't give this guy credit. There are many careers built off of this guy. Okay. Jim Roth. Ever heard that name? No. Right.
A lot of things I have to Google after this.
No, that's okay. Jim Roth. If you ever, Jim Roth. Yeah, if you ever walk down the street in Chicago, every place you would look for a long time there was a sign that would say Comedy 101. Take the class. 8-week course. Find your funny. He was the main guy. Okay. But I knew that that's not what I wanted to do.
What? Comedy?
Comedy. Okay. I was trying to figure out, because I was kind of like how does this all work? Right. I took the class, and the dynamics of the class and the behind the scenes of everything that was happening in the class and everything else. And then he would take us to comedy shows, and I just kept taking note after note after note. But one thing that was consistent, if there was 100 people at the show, 1 Latino, 2 blacks, 2 Latinos, 3 blacks. And I'm like, okay, I understand the problem here.
Like, as far as the audience?
Yeah, as far as the audience. Oh, and I said, this isn't a racial problem. Right. I didn't think of it as that. I didn't think, this isn't about race. This isn't about prejudice. This isn't about them versus us. We don't have the people on stage because we don't have the people in the audience. So if I'm telling stories about the Puerto Rican experience and the audience is 90%, 99% white, I don't think that they're going to get it.
Yeah.
And it's got to be now. People have had this argument before and say, well, no, that's not true. Funny is funny. I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand that. Yeah. But I wanted to entertain the community I came from with the stories we all knew. I get it. I get it. I'm not saying that like white people wouldn't laugh. I'm not saying black people wouldn't laugh. I was like, I want to be able to use both languages, right? On stage and have a freaking amazing, show.
Yeah. Well, it's all relational,
yeah,
right?
Absolutely.
Like the people that you said affected your life are all Latin
That's
men.
Exactly right.
John Leguizamo.
Yeah.
And I mean, so it's like, and everybody wants to see themselves on screen or on TV or what have you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just relational, cultural, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But you're going to relate more to that storyline than anything else. I mean, I remember my brother and I watching La Bamba, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah.
And just because we related to that type of storyline. So I totally see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
So that was it. I mean, I decided I'm going to do a show.
So notes, you were just like, okay, how is the host doing this?
What's the host doing? What's the lighting like?
Interesting.
And how's it all going down? And I went to a wonderful place called the Lion's Den, and that's where I saw everybody that's famous today.
Yeah.
That's where I saw them all for free. I mean, Kyle Kinane, and the Lincoln Lodge, Kyle Kinane, Ricky Carmona, who's now the writer for one of the writers on Tosh.0, TJ Miller, Kameo, Prashant Venkarata, Ken Gar, all of those guys that I said, man, these guys are doing it. And they weren't. They were just doing it 5 notches above me, but they weren't that far ahead of me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they were so damn good. And I'm like, you know what? Okay, so now we have a problem. I only see Ricky Carmona. I only see Alex Ortiz.
Okay.
So I need to figure it out. There is a wonderful comedian named Frank Townsend. Frank Townsend is an African-American comedian, but very well in touch with the Latino community. And I did my first show. And I did my second show and my third show.
So you produced your first show?
Produced my own show. Yeah, okay, no idea what I was doing.
Right.
Nothing. Didn't know.
So was that at Joe's?
No, it was at a place called Reunion.
Okay.
Reunion was at Lake and Halstead.
Okay.
Now, 3 or 4 shows in, I came across the Locos of Comedy on TV.
Oh.
And the Locos of Comedy was all Latino comedians. And I saw a guy named Rich Ramirez.
Okay.
And that was the funniest guy I'd ever seen. Within 3 weeks, I had him on the phone.
Wow.
I tell him, listen, I have no idea what I'm doing, but I want to do a show in Chicago. Well, I mean, you want to do a show in Chicago, you do a show anywhere you want, but we're working comedians. What do you mean working comedians? Aren't we all working?
Yeah.
No. What I mean is that it's not going to be inexpensive. There's air, hotel, ground transportation, and you got to pay for our meals, and you got to pay us to perform.
Okay.
And but he said, but I tell you what, he says, you ever heard of a guy named Joey Vega? I said, yeah, the guy that opens at the Mark Anthony concerts. Yeah, Joey Vega. I'm like, yeah. Well, I work with Joey on a regular basis.
Okay.
And it'll probably help your ticket sales if you bring him in because Joey's got a following.
Wow.
And I'm like, what? Yeah, you can bring us both in. We'll do the shows, da-da-da-da-da.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say this real quick. Number one.
Mm-hmm.
How did Joey Vega become Mark Anthony's opener?
Yeah.
To this day.
Mm-hmm.
To this day. Joey Vega, Mark used to go see Joey Vega.
Oh, wow.
Mark, for those of you who don't know, because you don't see it too much on TV, if Mark wasn't a singer, he would be an amazing comic. Extremely funny guy. Very funny guy.
Interesting.
Very funny.
He's got a great personality.
Very funny.
I mean, even in his concerts, he kind of talks to the crowd and
And he's very funny and he's very likable, right?
Very likable.
And Mark Anthony tells Joey, one day you're going to open for me. And Joey would bust his chops, and, he was a kid in the neighborhood, and they, the same neighborhood, and Joey would bust his chops. Mark Anthony gets a huge record deal. They sign him, right? And he came out with his crossover album, and he calls Joey, and he says, hey, remember I told you one day you would open for me? Suit up. You're going in. And that became that relationship.
Wow.
But I learned a lot that night on that show. And the most important thing I learned about to this day I enforce is that we work for the ticket buyer. That's the bottom line.
Yeah.
As comedians and as performers, we are there for the ticket buyer.
Yeah.
And Rich used to tell me, you got to think something about the ticket buyer. They can't hit rewind. They got a sitter. They got a tank of gas. Some girls went and got their hair done. Some guys went out and bought flowers so their girl would have flowers and took them out to dinner and made it a big night. They can't hit rewind. So you got to remember that when you put on a show. You have to do your absolute best. The night of that show, we get a woman in the front row heckling. Heckling. But complete BS.
Yeah.
And she was drinking and drinking and drinking. And Joey, now remember, I'm brand new at this.
Right.
There are now 400 people in this room. I went from 25 people to 400. You get me?
Okay, yeah.
This place is slammed.
So where is this at?
Reunion.
Oh, at Reunion. Oh, it's
at
big
Reunion.
enough to fit 400.
It's big enough.
Wow.
And Joey Vega says, who's on the lights here? And tells the guy in the back, do me a favor, turn the lights up. And she's got to go. And the audience starts to attack her. Not attack her physically, but no, please, sir. No, we don't do that. We don't do that. We don't want to behave the way she's behaving. Ma'am, you got to leave. Sir, looks over to the DJ. Don't play another song. Keep the lights on. I'm not going to continue until she's gone. And the audience will say, she's got to go. No, please. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't do that. She's going to leave, and she's welcome.
Yeah.
When she can behave and understand that everybody here paid to see me, and she's ruining that.
Oh, wow.
But right now, she's got to leave.
I love that he handled that.
Isn't that great?
That was amazing.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
That set the tone.
Yeah.
For how I've handled every situation that has happened since then along those same lines. That set the tone. That's how I handle it. That's how I try to handle it. It just happened. It kicked somebody out a couple of weeks ago.
Oh, for real?
Yeah, it happened, but it happened because the woman was overserved. She got in an argument with her boyfriend. No, we're not mad at you.
Yeah.
We're not mad at you.
So you just go up to the person and you're like, excuse me.
Yeah, it's time to go.
Adios.
You're disrespecting a comedian.
Yeah.
The people who paid to see a show here. So every now and then when I see this stuff on TV that's happening at comedy clubs, and people are saying the comedian this or no, hold on. Who was the producer? Where was the room manager? Shame on them.
Yeah.
Putting that responsibility on a comedian, I never let it get to the comedian.
Yeah.
When somebody disrespects a comedian, I stop it right there. It's not the comedian. I even tell the comedian, don't say another word. Stop. Because the comedian will try to have a conversation with him. I've walked out in front of a comedian on a stage in a theater with my hand up. And people have, now in this environment that we're living in now, people would probably think, oh my God, is this guy going to shoot up the theater? Because I have taken the stage and said stop when we've had a problem in the audience.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow.
You
interrupt the show.
Stop it.
That's great.
Right now. And then I tell the audience, lights up. Okay? Guys, this person's got to go right now. We're talking about when something gets crazy. And, we've had a few things get crazy.
Right.
But what's happening right now in the rooms, people disrespecting comedians and people disrespecting the room, that is the manager's fault. Where is the manager?
Yeah.
Where is the in-house security? Why did a person at my show, and I say this I'm not a tough guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I always say, I'm about as violent as a carrot.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? but I'm like, you got to go.
Yeah.
What? You got to go.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to go back and forth, sir. In fact, I got a deal for you. Here's your money back. We're good. You got to go.
Yeah.
We're not going to let it escalate, and now the poor comedian is up there trying to figure out, what do I do?
What do I do? Yeah.
Some people say, no, let the comedians handle the hecklers. No, we don't. I've had comedians tell me from out of town, if there's a heckler, I'll handle it. No.
Oh.
No, we stop it. Why?
Yeah.
Because then we're going to have 300 other hecklers.
Yeah.
And we don't know what direction that's going to go.
How do you feel about the Will Smith thing with Chris Rock and everything? Speaking of hecklers.
Yeah.
And,
well, that was a whole different situation.
And then, of course,
that's a whole different situation. But I'm going to tell you this right now. I love Will Smith.
Yeah.
I supported Will Smith. I'm done with Will Smith. I don't hate Will Smith because I'm sick too. You're sick. He's sick. We're all sick.
Yeah.
Right? At some level, something happened to him.
Yeah.
That he couldn't control, right?
Yeah.
He needs help. So is he an asshole? Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Is he an asshole? Yeah. But here's the deal.
I mean, he was definitely an asshole that day.
Yeah, 100%. But that was big. Something happened. Talk about, I don't believe that that's the end of all end alls. I believe there's something bigger though. But what did we learn from Chris Rock? Class.
Yes.
So if America didn't get a lesson in class that night, right? I'm not the first one that said this. If America didn't get a lesson in class that night, you're probably never going to get it.
And it's still classy. He hasn't said a word.
Absolutely.
He hasn't bashed him.
Absolutely. Because he probably knows what you and I know. That as performers, right? They say performance is for people who can't afford therapy.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
and there's a little bit of crazy. There's a little bit of crazy in all of us. Seriously.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm not afraid to admit it.
And the potential to go to that level maybe or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have to halt yourself, right? You can have these crazy thoughts, but you have to stay in your seat or whatever. But yeah, I am a lover of Will Smith too. It was very hard for me, and I had a lot of friends reach out to me. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? And I'm like, I cannot condone it. Just because you love somebody, you can't be like, oh, that was okay. And then the people that were on his side about it's like, no, that was not a horrible joke. There was a lot of things that you could joke about that couple.
Yeah.
That would have been way worse.
100%.
Way worse.
Yeah. 100%.
And that was light. And then he could have, Chris Rock could have came after him even in words. He's a wordsmith. He's clever, quick-witted.
Yeah.
I mean, he could have even bashed him more, and he didn't. It was just amazing.
Well, here's the deal. To the, not that the Oscars cares what MikeyO has to say, but you hired Chris Rock, not Joel Osteen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
That's it.
Yeah, that's true.
You didn't hire. You hired Chris Rock, and you knew what you were doing. So everybody. I mean, it's an argument that people are like, but then the people that aren't in those two situations, that those two are, they're very wealthy, they're very but still come to comedy clubs and think that they could climb on a stage, or they think that they could start swearing at a comedian.
Yeah.
Where do you work?
It gives people a
Sir,
license.
where do you work? Where do you work? The post office? I'm going to go there tomorrow and I'm going to start yelling obscenities. That's not the same thing. It isn't. I'm at work.
Yeah.
Susanna's at work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
mean, but the comedy clubs have got to stick to that.
Yeah.
And they don't, because it's kind of cool, because there's so many comedians now that are, that aren't there for the craft. That when it's interesting to a comedian to engage in that, for me, it's like, respecting the craft is more than just about the microphone. This is your room. This is where you work. And if you were a surgeon, the tools in the surgery room would be all equally important. The light, the stethoscope, the defibrillator, everything's a tool.
Okay.
So, this room has to be respected the same way. The servers that are here, that are committed to making sure that the people are happy, the security, the microphone, the lighting, the sound, everything's an element of your craft. So when you come into a room, I'll punch him in the face. Really?
Yeah.
Why are you punching people in the face?
Yeah, it's not good energy.
Yeah. And
not good energy at
it's
all.
not. So anyway.
Wow, interesting stuff. I love that about a producer, because I guess as a producer, I mean, you have a million things going on at the same time, and then you've got to just watch the crowd, and I love that you stop the show. You're just like, no, we're not having it.
I always have.
Great.
I always will. I have incredible respect for the audience. I have incredible respect for the comedians. If you're there to work, I know the comedians. I'll never name them. Mm-hmm. But I know the comedians that are there to have a good time and just pass time. And I know the ones that are there to work. Mm-hmm. And how do I know I'm right?
Yeah.
Because in my lifetime, I've seen all of those make it to TV. And I've been like, I was right about that person.
What's the difference about those two?
They're, I can tell that you're there to study. I can tell that you're concerned about your set. I can tell that, you're off in a corner, you're taking your notes. I can tell that you're attentively listening to the host, attentively studying the audience, attentively respecting other comedian sets. Mm-hmm. My worst enemy in any comedy show is a comedian that is talking while a comedian is performing. Mm. That's my enemy. They don't know it. I don't invite them back. Wow. But I don't have to. I'm not the God of gods. I don't have to go up to you and say, hey, you're not coming back here for doing that. But if your phone doesn't ring for 2 years, you should get it.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean, this is a craft, right? This is, and I'm glad I came across the people early on that I came across. Mm-hmm. I remember a certain comedian, very famous right now, and this guy, well, not very famous, but he's definitely rich and on TV all the time, and he'd sit in a corner, and he'd be taking his notes. And right when he got off the set, you know what he would do? I would always watch him. He'd come off, he'd go in the corner, put his book away. No shots, no chasing women, no trash talking other comedians. Just whatever was in that book. And when that guy made it, I said, no doubt. No doubt. And he made it and made it and made it and made it.
Wow.
But it's like everything else.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're in it, if you're a guitar player, I see you got guitars here. If you're a guitar player, you can't be 5 feet from those guitars without thinking, hold on a sec, let me try this. Mm-hmm. Let me try that. You know what? There's a great guitarist in town. Let me go study that person.
Right. Right.
So comedians, when I would book heavy comedians from out of town, I would always tell comedians, I'm booking these people. They're on TV. Mm-hmm. It's your job to go to the green room and just sit and listen. Yeah. They don't care about your stories. They got 1 million of them. Sit and listen. Watch how they behave. Watch what they do. Get their name. Get their number. I cannot tell you the number of times that I've flown into Los Angeles and New York City and comedians have found out I was there and said, hey, would you like a guest spot? No. I don't consider myself a comic, but Jesus, he offered me a guest spot? Mm-hmm. When I host my shows, I host my shows. In the beginning, I hosted my own shows to save money because there was no more money in the budget. And then it just stuck. The MikeyO show stuck, and it's,
How did you call yourself MikeyO?
The MikeyO? That's a great story. I come home from a show. Yeah. There was a girl named Maria Casanova who I had a crush on. I called her 5 years ago to tell her I was doing a national TV show and I was going to tell this story. And I said, hey, Maria, this is MIke Oquendo. And I was just going to let you know because I didn't want you to see it on TV or hear it on the radio. I'm going to tell the story about how the MikeyO name came about. Okay. Click. Hung up on me.
Really?
Yeah, she wasn't happy with our last departure meeting type of thing. But she hung up on me. But Maria Casanova is in my living room. She worked at a bank, right? Yeah. I went to the bank, and every time I went to the bank to put money in, because I'm going to tell you something right now. The money part of this was never intended.
Okay.
So when I was coming home from a reunion with $5,000 cash after expenses, every weekend, $5,000, $3,000, $2,000. Wow. Finally, the lady at the bank says to me, "That's a lot of money. Mm-hmm. It's going into your personal account." I go, "And? Well, are you a business? I mean, where are you getting this kind of money?" Yeah. And I said, "Well, I don't think I have to tell you that." She says, No. Don't get defensive. I'm trying to help you. you're going to set off an alarm here because there's a lot of money coming in, and you know, and I'm like, well, what do you mean? She says, yeah. She says, well, all I'm trying to tell you is switch to a different type of account, a business account. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And I'm like, really? Yeah. She says, talk to somebody and open a business account. I went back and I talked to Maria, and Maria told me, yeah, of course, because the federal government, you know, when you make big deposits like that, after a while, the federal government, because of not stereotyping, but I forget the name, but basically there's like an algorithm of, Latino, lots of money, making $8 an hour, $10,000 deposit, drugs.
Yeah.
And I'm like, really?
It's
She
like
goes,
a flag.
yeah. She's like, yeah, let's send up a flag. I'm like, oh, okay.
Huh.
She says, so just open a bank account. And I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, I don't have a company. Sure you do. You're doing comedy shows. I go, well, it's a company?
This is great. Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, it's a company. I'm like, really? Yeah. She goes, so you got to open it up. Here's how you open it up. You got to do this. You got to do that. I go, what am I going to call it? Well, I don't know. You got to come up with a name. There's a picture of me on the wall. And she says, that's you when you were how old? I go, 5. She goes, what did they call you when you were 5? MikeyO. Well, then that's the name of the company, MikeyO.
Oh, my God.
That's all that happened. I swear to God.
Wow.
That was the whole story. That was it. I go to the bank, and they're like, can I help you? Yeah, I want to start the MikeyO comedy show. All right, fill this out. Fill out articles in corporation, this, that, that.
Yeah.
Have your lawyer do this, lawyer do that. And then I open up a bank account. It was the MikeyO comedy show.
Wow.
That's all that happened. It was because I didn't know how to handle the money.
That is so interesting.
That's all that happened.
It's just almost like self-made. I mean, there was like nobody to go to.
There was nobody. There was nobody
for you to go to and go, how do you do this?
And nobody would take you serious. It was bad enough to get, the business system back then to take a real business person serious, like a legitimized storefront, let alone a guy that was going to come in. What do you do? Well, I do shows, right? Comedy shows. But it was crazy.
Wow. Especially back then.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
I mean, just the fact that you are Latin, there's not a lot of, people are not expecting you to do that. I hate to say it, but back then, even more so, it's just like.
Yeah, there wasn't, this has been a lot of fun. I've had a great time doing this. I've been so lucky because I've been accidentally the first at a lot of things.
Yeah. How many years have you been producing comedy?
20.
Just comedy. Wow.
20 at Joe's on Weed Street, 18, and then 2 before that, 20.
Okay, so after and forgive me, what was that name of the place?
Reunion. Yeah.
After Reunion, was it Joe's?
No. So then what happened was, it was Joe's, but here's how it happened. There was a guy that, so my nephew didn't have a place to live. He comes to live with me. Like every other good nephew, he's got a friend that doesn't have a place to live. He comes to live with me. Mike Ali was my nephew's roommate, and Mike Ali worked at Joe's on Weed.
Oh, wow.
And I came home one day. I went to the reunion one day, so let me just take you back. You know that I do something called Comedians for Communities. Okay. So how was Comedians for Communities born? Well, Reunion booked a MikeyO show and a breast cancer fundraiser on the same night. They double booked us. So the lady's like, well, I got the booking first. And I'm like, well, I sold 300 tickets. How many tickets have you sold? 9. And I'm like, but there's more people coming to the door.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm not leaving. You're leaving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I told the owner, hey, so. But then I thought to myself, well, hold on a second. How many people are you expecting? Probably 50 or 60. I said, okay, here's the best I can do. Your people can stay for the comedy show. And then after 10 o'clock, you can have the room for dancing. But we're not leaving. I sold these tickets. But remember, there was no Ticketmaster. There was no TicketWeb. There was no Eventbrite. This was literally people paging me or calling me. I need 6. I need 7. I need 4. How do you get a hold of people back then, right?
Yeah.
We were slammed. And that night was born Comedians for Communities, because I'm not going to lie. When people were like, oh, my God, this was such a good idea to have a fundraiser for breast cancer awareness, I was like, that's because I'm brilliant, girl. That's because I'm super smart. I never gave the other lady credit. But anyway, 2 weeks after that, or 3 weeks after that, I go to reunion, and we had locked in the Latino market. There was just no messing around.
That is awesome.
Yeah, locked it in. We didn't know what we were doing. We were we just did not know what we were doing. How you seat people at a comedy club? We didn't do any of that. Find a seat. Have a good day. Give me your money. Find a seat. Give me your money. Find a seat. Comedians would go up. We didn't even know. It was nuts. Comedians were loving it because they had audiences they never had before.
Yeah. And it was all pretty much Latin comics. Yeah.
There was only 3.
Yeah. Oh,
Alex Ortiz, a guy named Cisco, Alex Ortiz, and Ricky Carmona, and then everybody else. Okay. But if you were not Latin, you were at least funny enough to be able to work with Latinos.
Yeah.
And then, so we, even though we're a Latino comedy room, we've never had really an all Latino stage because we've always opened it up to everybody. But the guy at reunion says to me, "Hey, I just want you to know, I've been meaning to tell you this, didn't know how to tell you this, but starting next week, we're a gay club." What? Yeah, we're a gay club starting next week. I go,
how did that happen?
A gay club? What do you mean starting next week? Yeah, a guy came in here and we're going to work it out. He's going to buy the place. This is going to be 100% gay starting next week.
Interesting.
So I was like, okay. So what are you saying? I'm saying you got to find another home. And we were out.
Oh, yeah. Wow. We were out, yeah. Okay, I didn't realize. That's bizarre.
Well, we were out. There was no.
That makes no sense.
No, we were out.
With so many people coming in.
Yeah.
But
we were
decisions.
out.
Okay.
Yeah, but so many great things were learned in that room. The structure of how we wanted to do business was learned in that room. And then we went. I told my nephew. My nephew's like, "What's going on?" I said, "This is happening. Talk to Mike Ali. He works at Joe's." Get to Joe's on Weed Street. The back room of Joe's held 40 people, and in the front was heavy metal. Wow. So if you can imagine 800 people listening to heavy metal, and 40 of us in the back room trying to do a comedy show.
Oh, my gosh.
But it all flourished from there, man. So many great things happened. They moved us to the circus tent. They had a circus tent, and they moved us to the circus tent.
Wow.
And then I did the smartest shit I've ever done.
Okay.
I was like, I'm going to ask Rich Ramirez to hook me up with all the female comedians he knows. And I'm going to do a Valentine's Day show. And that was the best move I ever made. We had so many women at this show. Okay. I mean, and we killed it 2 nights in a row. One of the comedians on that show decided that she was going to call me and tell me she couldn't do the show. Alex Ortiz became the 3rd woman on that show, dressed in drag, as a cousin from Florida named Crazy Gloria.
Wow.
And he killed it. He was so damn good,
Wow. Like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, no, it was fun. But that's the way things had to be. And we've been there this whole time. We've been at Joe's. It just has not, it's been non-stop with, it was non-stop for a while there. We started developing Latino comedians. We had so many different Latino comedians go through
I just found out that you had a workshop.
Absolutely.
I had Abby here not too long ago, and he was talking about a workshop at MikeyO, and I was like, wait, what? So Abby and Gwen and like these comedians went through that workshop.
Absolutely.
And so you had a hand in that. Yeah. That is amazing. I was like, wow.
Yeah. We had the workshop. Cool. We had the workshop, and Gwen is one of the few people lucky enough to have it taught by Rich Ramirez right before he passed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Rest in peace. Yeah. And Rich was brilliant. Rich was well respected. Rich is like, Rich's everyday circle of people that he was with every day was Ray Romano, Seinfeld. These were his friends.
Wow.
This isn't like work. These are the people who were in his circle. Wow. That was his circle of friends in New York. And Rich was just a really, really wonderful guy, a patient guy, taught me a lot of stuff, scolded me a lot, but always brought it back to the basics. And the basics are we work for the audience. We work for the people in those seats. Yeah. Don't forget that.
I love that. I think it's so important. Yeah. Sometimes comedians get wrapped up in, like, and we were talking with Gwen, like wrapped up in kind of impressing the other comedians instead of like thinking about the crowd and also like, anxiety can come in, but if you are focused on making the crowd happy, it can leave you.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to. I just think taking the focus off of you.
Yeah.
And putting it on the people.
Yeah. It's so in your material. It's in your material. It's in the work you put into it. That's why I say, I don't judge. I learned early on. I don't judge comedians. There's a few things I don't like. I try not to allow in my room. I'm a huge. I don't like audience work. I don't like swearing just to swear.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I remember one time, a long time ago, and the comedian will probably tell you the story, but I'll let him tell you. I showed him one time. I said, "Hey, I just want to show you something, and I hope you don't get offended. But you said you dropped an F-bomb 47 times in 5 minutes.
Oh wow!
And I just want you to know you're much smarter than that. You've got some really incredible stuff, but I think that your nervous energy is guiding you towards those F-bombs." And I would click on those F-bombs, and I would say, do what you want to do. And the comedian doesn't even swear now. You know what I mean? Not because of me, but because, you find your place. But look, I don't censor nobody. There are things I don't like. I don't allow in my room. I don't like, hate humor. I just don't.
Yeah.
That's me.
Are you a fan of self-deprecating humor?
No, I have no problem with that.
Okay.
Yeah, no problem with that.
Yeah.
I have no problem with that. But
it's interesting to hear the philosophies, because I do follow you on Facebook and I read everything.
My thing is this. Remember, I work for the audience. I also have to remember there are a lot of comedians who are very funny, who I don't get along with, who I book.
Oh,
because we work for the audience.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
I've got to remove myself from that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not necessarily favorites of mine as humans, but they do a great job with the audience. And at the end of the day, they're not here for me.
Interesting.
Right. Show up.
Yeah.
Do your job. Don't cross the line that gets us in trouble.
Yeah.
Get paid. Build your audience. You won. That's how you win. We're not going to win by, airing out our differences and all this other stuff. You know what I mean?
I agree, because one of my questions was, what do you feel about like these Facebook feuds and these
they're not doing comedians, listen to me. You're not doing no. Yeah. I'm sorry to cut you off.
No. I want to hear your
comedians, you're not doing yourselves a favor.
Yeah.
Facebook feuds and dogging each other and eating each other up and all that other stuff, you're not doing yourself a favor. You're not doing yourself a favor. There's a really good example of how bad it can be right now with MIke and that whole group of comedians, D.L. Hughley. I don't know if you've been following that.
I have not.
Well, it's horrible.
I knew about MIke and that one man that made Precious, but I didn't know anything else.
Type in D.L. Hughley MIke and listen to D.L. Hughley's response to her.
Okay.
It's a really bad situation. On MIke's part. But here's the thing. You guys make a lot of money.
Yeah.
A lot of money.
So what's their beef about?
They have a beef where MIke is just very angry, very hateful. Who knows if she's right or she's wrong, but what is the point? That's between you and D.L. Hughley. That's not between you and the paying audience.
Yeah, and bringing out to the world.
You know what I'm saying to you? The problem that I have with you, because you were late to my show and you're intoxicated and you were vulgar, or the problem you have with me because, I'm a mess, I'm a misogynist or a jerk or whatever. That's not for the airwaves.
Yeah.
That's for you to pull me to the side and say, "Yo, I got to talk to you about something."
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? The paying audience, you're bringing them into the fight. And remember, producers talk to producers. Comedians talk to comedians. Club owners talk to club owners. Right? There's a couple of feuds happening right now on social media. What's the best way to handle that? Kill all that. Call each other. Meet for coffee. Make a decision to either never talk again, never work together again, or let's move on.
Yeah.
Your careers are going to suffer. Your careers are going to suffer. Don't do that. Don't do that. And I've been wrong a lot of times. And I've had many comedians come up to me and say, "You were wrong." And I've been able to say, "You are correct." Or I've been able to say, "I am not wrong." But the paying audience doesn't have to be a part of that.
Yeah. It's good. Yeah.
Right? The paying audience doesn't have to be a part of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really new at the game, so I'm just an observant right now. I'm just observing.
Yeah.
I'm just observing, and I'm learning, and I'm studying, and all of that. But yeah, I definitely, I think a lot of it is noise. That
Yeah. Well, you'll go into a green room and you'll see one guy holding court. Pay attention to that guy.
What do you mean by holding court?
There's always one guy in every green room that's holding court. Susanna does this, and Billy does that, and Mikey does that. You work for MikeyO. You know what I mean? Oh, Zanies? Zanies, boo. You know what I mean? There's always that one guy creating and stirring the pot of unnecessary anger and hate. Yeah. Here's what I got a suggestion for you, and here's what I always say to those guys. You want to impress me? Put it on paper, get behind the mic, bring it to life.
Yeah. So this stuff happens to you because there's times like I produce very little shows, and I've had some encounters where I always feel like I'm always like, does this happen to MikeyO?
Yeah.
Because I feel like maybe they're doing it because I'm a woman, or there's a phrase in Spanish that says "saben con quién."
Yeah.
Like they're giving you a hard time because they feel like they can get away with it. Because like, what am I going to do? Like very little time in comedy. I'm not going to blast it out. I feel like certain comedians have like more, they've been in the trenches longer than I have. I mean, not that it's about winning or whatever, but it's like it's almost kind of like it's just comforting to hear that this, I mean, not comforting, I shouldn't say that, but that this happens to you, because I feel like I didn't know. I'm just thinking, it probably happens to producers that are female because they know they could get away with it, and they're like, well, we can just be rude to you because you're nobody. No, but it happens to you too.
No,
so that's
but
very
hold on
interesting.
a second. We're gonna have a fight now, you and I.
No, that's
so
not
if
fight.
This was a hot dog stand, and you own the hot dog stand, and it's your very first hot dog stand, I have the right to come in there and completely disrespect you and disrespect the product. And no, I don't think that's true. I don't think you should put up with anything on the idea that you're a woman.
Right.
Les funny femmes. I produced listen everybody here. Listen to me. Okay? I produced the very first all-female comedy show on a regular basis because places like Zanies and those other places wouldn't produce them. Not because Zanies didn't want women. Zanies had many women go to the club. Okay. But the men made it hard for these women. They're not funny. They're all TNA. Who she's screwing to get on stage. Who she's sleeping with. I'm going to tell you something right now. I used to have a joke. I stopped saying it because I knew that eventually on social media it would go bad. But I have slept with every single female comedian in Chicago.
Oh, no, you told me that one day. And I was just like, what?
And people would be like, what are you talking about? Yeah, because every time I would book a female, they would say to me, "Oh, is she giving you a little something on the side?" Oh, and I would be like, "Yo, don't bring that here. Yeah, don't bring that here. All right, because number one, you could probably get away with it, and you're not a producer, you're a comic. Whereas, I'm trying to draw an audience, and the last thing I need is a female to put something like that out and have no audience. By the way, to this day, 70% of my ticket buyers are women. 70% of my ticket buyers are women. And those aren't MikeyO facts. Those are Google Analytics facts. Those are Eventbrite buyer statistic facts. Okay. Yeah. And so we've always created a home for everybody. Gay shows. My first gay show was I've got the article at home. My very first gay show, we had a protest. Right? Wow. You're booking, Jesus hates fags. Those were the signs that they were putting outside of Joe's. Oh my God. I'm telling you the truth. Wow. And I went out there and I'm like, what's going on out here? Wow. I didn't even know. Oh, well, they're upset because you got this gay comedy show. I go, well, I didn't book a gay comedy show. Yeah. I booked a comedy show with comedians who are hysterical and happen to be gay. A week later, I'm on the cover of Gay Chicago magazine, and it reads what? MikeyO embraces gay community embraces MikeyO. Aww. That was awesome. I have the magazine at home. And then what happens? And then they asked me to produce Comedy for Christ. Can you imagine that? Now I have to book Christian comedians. And it's like, this just goes to show you that nobody really hates anybody. It's all bullshit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's the attention that we can get from it.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah,
don't let anybody step on you when you're booking a show. You're the booker. You're the producer. You're the promoter. You're the person at risk.
Yeah.
You're the person who is taking the financial risk and nowadays the security risk. Show me some respect. I had this conversation with somebody yesterday who's having a problem with some comedians.
Okay.
And I said, you're in charge.
Yeah.
Your problem is that you're in charge. You have no problem. These are dudes, right? Who,
so,
you're in charge.
Okay, so, okay.
Yeah.
Because I had two issues, and one I was more, it's just hard because like sometimes you're tired or whatever, you got like 50,000 things. One of them was I did a dress right away, but I think I was in that mode of like, okay, A, B, C, D, whatever. And luckily other people in the room stuck up for me, which was really, really sweet, heart to those people. But another situation, I just didn't see it coming. And it was smaller than the first one, and I let it slide because I kind of felt, okay, like I know Jerry Seinfeld wouldn't do this, but like, let's say I booked Jerry Seinfeld and he was a complete jerk to me.
Yeah.
But it's Jerry Seinfeld. You know what I mean? So I guess I'm thinking if I say to Jerry, hey, you know what? Like, I'm producing this. I'm running it, like, calm it down or whatever, that he's going to go and he's going to tell, everybody he knows to not come to my show because for some reason, make up stories about me, whatever.
No, that's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's not going to happen.
Okay.
That's not going to happen. Susanna, the best thing that's ever happened to me 5 times is I've been boycotted. That's the best thing that's ever happened to me.
Wow.
5 times. For 5 different reasons in the last 20 years. Don't work for MikeyO. Don't go to a MikeyO show. Da-da-da-da-da-da. It's the best thing that's ever happened to me. Well, number 1, thank you for helping me get my name out there. But number 2 is, at some point, you can't, canceling people because you didn't like the way you were treated or you don't like the way you feel or your feelings got hurt. Everybody knows it's all BS.
Yeah, I guess so. And other people that worked on your show know that that's not how
that's
you
just
operate.
not the way it goes. And that's not true. And shame on any comedian given an opportunity to be on stage to make it difficult for the producer to do her job. Shame on you. I mean, unless you're being really unreasonable and you're not paying people and you're scamming people, which are the worst things you can do, no. It's very simple. I tell comedians, there's nothing in between. You got 8 minutes. You've seen my text. 8 minutes, Saturday, 8 p.m. It pays this. Can you do it? Yes or no? Yeah. I always tell comedians, you don't have to tell me no reasons. Yes or no. And, I prefer a yes or a no.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think payment should be up front, and that's how
exactly
the text
right.
is, or the message is. Yeah. It's like this much, this much,
That's
this
exactly
much.
right. But here's how it all goes down.
Yeah.
We do a show. We have a new girl working for us. Okay? I had done 2 shows. I told the new girl, let the guy that works for me know I'm going home early. Payroll's in the black bag. I'm out. It's my second show, really my third one of that day.
Okay.
And I was done. What happens is I go home. That's the end of that story. 5 days later, a comedian reaches out to me. Hey, do you pay comedians or do you not pay comedians? I'm a little bit confused. Why? What's up? Well, I did your show a few days ago, and none of us got paid. What? Yeah, I did your show. Yeah, we were there. None of us got paid. I go, what do you mean none of you got paid? No, nobody got paid. I go, well, the host didn't call me. Nobody called me.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. I'll call you back. I call. Hey, ESL. He works for me. You know him. Did you pay the comedians? For what? For the show. No, I didn't have any money to pay him. I'll call you right back. I call the new girl, Maria. Did you ever tell ESL to check the black bag for the payroll to pay the comedians? Oh, my God, I'm so sorry. I forgot. Follow me?
Okay.
Honest mistake.
Yeah.
I call the host.
Yeah.
Host, So you left the club and then it didn't occur to you to pay anybody? Well, I don't know. I figured you and I would deal with it later. So it didn't get done.
Okay.
But the damage and the overall impression on the other end is what? He doesn't pay the comedians. He tried to rip the comedians off.
Yeah.
He neglected to pay the comedians. He only paid the favorites, whatever the case might have been.
Right.
Who knows what it was? Maybe it was nothing. But
right.
You see what happens there? Right?
Yeah.
It's completely okay to make a mistake. We make mistakes. It's completely okay. Talk to each other.
Yeah.
Talk, right? Hey, listen, I know you wouldn't have ripped anybody off, but all the comedians are now saying that, you're not paying the comedians. Well, guess what? I called every one of those comedians. None of them said anything. But this person was concerned and kind of maybe said, hey, we're not getting paid here. No, it's not his mistake.
Yeah.
It was an honest mistake. You're the producer. You have a responsibility to produce a good show. But you have to understand something. Give yourself a break. The responsibility of a big venue with a lot of people, with a room full of people, with 1,000 different complaints. It's too cold. It's too hot. Whatever the case is, right? Am I right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh,
Then
you're getting
and then 9 comedians.
bombarded.
9 comedians. I want to go first. I got to go first. I got another gig. No, you're not going to go first. You shouldn't. If you got another gig, they'll have to wait. You're on this show. We do start on time, and this is when you're gone. Okay? Now, am I that big of a jerk about it? Well, no, but you knew this. You knew this morning when you woke up.
Yeah.
Right. So you waited till 5 minutes from now. No, that's because you just got a text that somebody's got an extra spot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. How do you handle cancellations when people cancel last minute? Like, are you just like,
I don't get them.
I'm done with this person. I'm not going to.
Yeah, no. Things happen. Again. People have families. People have lives. Things do happen, but I don't get them too often.
Oh, okay.
I don't get too many cancellations.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not unreasonable about it.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I don't get them. I don't get them because, again, this is a real show. This is a real production. And I'm going to take you serious. You're going to take me serious.
Yeah. Very good. Yeah. Love it. Yeah. There's so much to producing. It can be a monster. So, like, how long have you done the theater and the music? I mean, I know you just had Jerry Rivera, and then, like, you'll be doing Aguijón Theater and, like, plays and things like that. Is it kind of like people come and present, like, I have this play, what do you think?
Yeah, so along the lines of John Leguizamo, back to that, I am a huge fan of one-man shows. Danny Hawk, John Leguizamo, Ellie Castro, and the many other one-person shows that are out there. I started producing a one-person show with Ellie. We're now Ellie and I are now in like a 12, 13-year relationship. I've produced all of his shows, most recently at the Kennedy Center.
Yes.
I've produced in most of the shows we've been producing later are in between 7 and 1,500 person seats. We're getting ready to do NJ Pack. We're going to do Dr. Phillips Center. So that's a really big part of what we do, the one-person shows. And I've done a lot of theater shows because, again, another MikeyO moment where I'm walking down the street, I see an empty theater, I knock on the window, and I'm there 5 years. We were at Watch Round the South Side where we built our South Side audience. We were there for 5 years. We were at Joe's this whole time, and then bouncing back and forth between theater. Theater has been a really, really, really fun thing for me. I plan to do more and more of it. I co-produce a lot of stuff, and I support a lot of stuff when it comes to theater. I think that, my strongest asset in all of this is that my theater negotiations, my contract negotiation skills, my marketing skills, all of that come together. But I get to transfer that to laughter. Things that make people laugh as opposed to, I have to be, listen, I love Shakespeare, but he's been dead 500 years. We're okay with that.
If you need an interpreter to know what he meant.
So,
That is great. Yeah, I love that. There's so many questions I had, but I think you've hit everything I wanted to ask you, funny enough, just by talking.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about creativity and the obstacles, and we've talked about that. How did you get the MikeyO nickname? What advice do you give to up and coming comics and people that want to produce? Or you've already
very simple.
Given a lot, but
very simple. There are no bosses in comedy. I hate the comedy bosses, the guys that are like, hey, I'm this and I'm that and I'm, you should kiss the ring because of this. There are no comedy bosses.
Yeah.
I've seen some kids that are, there's a young guy right now in Chicago. that's going to be a superstar. There are 2 women in Chicago right now that are going to be superstars. There are probably, 20 comedians right now really, really doing it the correct way. When I say the correct way, just an overall respect and love for the craft. And these people are doing it. There are no bosses. They're writing their material. They're respecting the craft. They're respecting the bookers, respecting the venues. They're respecting the audience. They're respecting other comedians. And they're just, I can't say it any other way. They're there to work. They're there to work. And, there is no boss. You are the boss. That pen and that paper, that pencil and that paper, you're right. That's where it is. There is nothing else. There is no supervisor. There's nobody above you. There's nobody, there is no glory. I'm not going to walk into any room ever and bow down. These comedians are all on the same journey. Help each other. Help each other. There is a way, I always get a kick out of comedians trying to tell other comedians how to tell a joke. No. It's cool to say, hey, I got an idea. You ever try this? But there are comedians literally now I've seen lately that are, the bosses of comedy and that doesn't exist anywhere. That doesn't exist anywhere. You put it on paper, you put it on stage. If it doesn't work, you keep working it and working it and working it. And eventually you break up with it and it goes away and you find another joke and you begin this wonderful relationship with this other joke and you're in a honeymoon with that other joke and you tweak it and tweak it and tweak it and build it and it's a beautiful relationship and then you move on. You know what I mean? But, stick to the pencil, stick to the paper, and just get on there and just do it. Who cares? Last week I went to an open mic. Comedian came off. Comedian says, I'm so disappointed in myself. Why? Because you're here and I didn't do well. I go, I'm disappointed in you. He says, why? I says, because you really think that doing that joke in front of me was the most important part of your night. It didn't work. It's okay. It's no big deal. Don't blame yourself. Don't blame the audience. It's okay. It's not, it's not the way it works. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think Patty Vasquez is one of the best writers in town.
Ugh. Love her.
I think Patty Vasquez is one of the mentors, the most under-tapped mentors of comedy in Chicago. If I was a comic coming up, if I was a female comic, a Latina comic, if I was male, it doesn't matter, whatever, I would latch on to Patty. Her knowledge bank, what's in that head, her experience bank, what's in that head, what she's seen and what she's done. And the audiences she's worked and the shit she's had to put up with from from the male community. Yeah. Both, you know what I mean? Yeah. Patty is brilliant. There are some great people here that we don't tap into and they would tell you the same thing. It's just you and the paper and the mic. Yeah. There is nobody else. There is no answering the MikeyO. Right?
Yeah, I love that.
All you got to answer to MikeyO is what time was I supposed to be here? Right. Then that's what time you're supposed to be there. Right. And if you really, really love it, and you really, really want to do it, it's going to show that you are like without restriction and without limitations, that nobody is sitting on you, that you're free to do it. You walk into a room, what's he going to think? What's Susanna going to think? Susanna never looks, I heard Susanna told Bobby that Bobby told Jerry that Jerry told Mary that he didn't like that joke.
Right. Yeah.
I'm not here for that.
Yeah.
I'm here to work.
I love that. Patty Vasquez is doing headlining July 30th for Fulbright Art Theater, and I'm so excited. Yeah. And she is one of the kindest individuals I've ever met. Yeah. I met her at your first MikeyO show, and I tell this to people, but it was an all-female show, and females can be catty. You know, I've worked with catty females, you know, and I was like, oh gosh, I hope everybody's nice. And they've surpassed my expectations. They were just so sweet. And she, right away, she just came and said the kindest words to me. And it was just so uplifting to hear that from her. Yeah. And she doesn't have to do that.
No.
You know?
No.
She was there to host, and she's made it. I mean, she's an executive producer of a radio, like her radio station, you know, like her radio show and everything. And it's like, she doesn't have to do that. Yeah. And I was just like, wow, just so impressive when people can be at that level and be humble and kind and nice. And I love that about people like her and Gwen. And I mean, I don't want to start listing names because everybody was really nice to me at that show. But like, yeah, just people that are okay with welcoming in a new comedian or giving words of wisdom or just saying, look, like this and that, or how do you feel after your set, or what's going on? You know, that's just so great. And that just shows the quality of a person.
100%. Old school, new school, and I leave it right here.
Yeah.
I've known Patty my entire career in this business. Maybe I'm off by about 2 years. Maybe Patty came into existence with us 16 years ago, maybe 17 years.
Wow.
How many times has Patty told me? How many times has Patty mentioned the fault of another comedian? How many? Give me a number.
Probably 0.
0.
Yeah.
Old school, new school. Why? She's there to help you. But it's not what she does. She's not in the green room dogging other comedians and their skill set and everything else. New school and old school. Now I walk into a green room and I know everything about other comedians. She is all class. She's an untapped mentor. And imagine that?
Yeah.
17 years.
Yeah, 17
She's
years.
had many opportunities to say to me, don't book that person. They're this, they're that. That person's not funny. This person, no. Because everybody is where they're at. Everybody is somewhere in their skill set. Everybody was new once.
Yeah.
Everybody deserves a chance. You don't find that anymore.
Yeah. Good stuff.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mike.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, my gosh. It's a pleasure to have you here. I could talk to you for hours.
Oh, well, you know what? I appreciate that, you gave me the Indiana. I believe this is Indiana fuel because I'm talking way too much. But
yeah, somewhere we found it somewhere in a corn husk.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. I before we leave, I just want to say I admire you. I respect you. I listen to everything you say. I thank you so much for the opportunities you've given me. I really, really appreciate it. You did not know me. You had never heard anything I said comedically, and you were willing to book me, and I just really, really appreciate that.
Well, you're doing a great job.
Thank you.
And if you've not been, people who haven't been to your show in Hobart,
Indiana,
what they need to know is that not only do you put on a great show, but if they get there about an hour and a half early, about 5 doors south of you, they have the best Jamaican food ever. So if you're coming down to check out her show, check out the Jamaican spot. All right?
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you.